What's up everyone, OJ here. Welcome back to another RPG news segment. Today, we've got some huge news when it comes to RPG games, action adventure, man. It's going to be a good one, but before we get into that, please make sure you hit that like button and also subscribe if you are someone new. Now, let's go ahead and get right into this here, guys, and we're starting off hot with one of the most controversial re-releases ever. It seems like it, at least. Probably not. But The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD. Nintendo has shared the first screenshots of the game. So this is pretty new. This is some good stuff here. We can see how much better it looks than the original game. Now, I've always said with Skyward Sword, when it comes down to mainline 3D Zelda games, it's hard to find an actual bad game objectively. There might be some things that you don't like from one game to another game or whatever the case is, but it's hard objectively to look at any mainline 3D Zelda game and say, yeah, that game just sucks. It's glitchy, laggy, broken, whatever the case is in terms of what a bad game is. But Skyward Sword is still one of the least selling, one of the worst selling Zelda games. So for so many people out there, seeing these screenshots, seeing the game, seeing what it is, it's going to be a brand new experience for them. So I see The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD, I see it being a huge seller for Nintendo, and that's why it's selling so well on Amazon and people are excited to play it. They never played this game. It came out at the tail end of the Wii. This was back in 2011. We're talking a decade ago. So many things were different then. There were some people that became bigger gamers. They didn't have the system, didn't have the money, whatever the case is. So seeing these new screenshots and comparing them to what we got on the Wii, man, it is definitely a big difference, because the big issue, or the few big issues that I had with the game, one of them was the resolution back in 2011. Even then, we had HD TVs, we had 1080p, and man, this game was not looking hot on an HD TV through the Wii. So the fact that they've updated it to where we can play it and it doesn't look like a complete fuzzy mess some of the times, especially with the cutscenes, is definitely a good thing. And these screenshots are looking good for the first ones that have been released with the game. The game officially comes out on July 17th. So it's going to be a packed July, full of huge RPG games. I mean, we have Neo: The World Ends With You in July. We have Monster Hunter Stories 2 in July. We have Legend of Zelda, of course. So there is plenty to play, and these screenshots are going to make the experience a lot easier on the eyes, a lot easier on your HD TV, and of course a lot better to play now with more options with the regular controls and not having forced motion controls on you. And of course the frame rate. This is the first official 3D Zelda game release. We're not talking emulators and all that, but the first official one to run at 60 frames per second, because Nintendo doesn't re-release their games usually like this in this way, but they've done it, but not in this way, because they've doubled the frame rate at this point. They usually keep the same frame rate, but this one they actually went up to 60 with this release of the game. So very interesting there. Even with The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD, which that was the GameCube game, they brought it over to the Wii U, which is obviously a much more powerful system, and they still kept that frame rate at 30, even with some dips here and there. You know, same thing goes with Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. So this one's up to 60. So it's very good to see that they actually doubled that frame rate. And of course the resolution's better, easier on the eyes, and those controls. So it's going to be fun to play the game when it finally comes out. And I think that there might be a second coming of The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. It might be treated like Majora's Mask in the history of Zelda games. We're gonna have to wait and see on that once people actually get their hands on it. So what do you guys think about these new screenshots? What do you think about The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. All right, and moving on to the next topic here, we have a massive rumor that has been somewhat, I would say, backed up by a very reputable source. If you watch the Spawncast, the podcast that I'm on over on the Spawn Wave channel, Nate from Direct Feed Games is definitely backing this rumor of a PlayStation 5 exclusive Final Fantasy game. And according to what went down on the Spawncast, apparently this game is taking Final Fantasy in a new direction. So it's not going to be like Final Fantasy 14, which is an MMO RPG. It's not going to be like Final Fantasy 15 or Final Fantasy 16, which those are free roaming third-person action games. So maybe it's going to be something different. Action RPGs, I should say. So maybe it's going to be something different. Is it going to be a Final Fantasy Maxima type of game, which is kind of like a hybrid between, of course, regular turn-based RPG and like Pokemon? Is it going to be something like that? And apparently it's going to be very exciting. Now, this was on Reset Era. I'm going to talk about the post here. So this is what was said. It says, I believe you can expect at least one major FF announcement in addition to updates on the currently announced stuff, Final Fantasy 16, Endwalker, and Final Fantasy 7 Remake. It should be a good E3 season for Square overall and a freaking good E3 for PlayStation, because all of those games are going to be first on PlayStation or on PlayStation console exclusive, whatever the case is. Now, I don't know their exact E3 schedule, but I'm guessing based on knowledge of what games they have in development, how far in they are, and their target release dates. So take this with a grain of salt. I believe we're getting two major Square Enix reveals this June, a PS5 exclusive Final Fantasy title and a cross-gen Eidos title. Just to set expectations, it's something new, not as high-end as Final Fantasy 16 or Forspoken, but certainly more significant than World of Final Fantasy or a remaster. Conceptually, I think it might be up many people's alley. So this can go in lots of different ways, right? We can go the route of, okay, so it's not quite up to Final Fantasy Maxima and how that game looked. So maybe it's in the same vein of a Final Fantasy Crystal Bears in terms of what they were trying to do there, a high-end or somewhat kind of different looking Final Fantasy third-person game that they had on the Wii with a different art style, but was supposed to be a like mainline or a more of an offset Final Fantasy game, but kind of upping that to the PlayStation 5. So it looks like it's not going to be the highest budget, but then again, it's not going to be more of the lower single A or double budget, kind of somewhere kind of crossing the line, a hybrid in terms of that. So it's going to be interesting what they end up doing, how the game is, what it actually is, but I'm excited for it because it's Final Fantasy and it's something different. They're not just going to give us the same thing because there's no point. We already have stuff. We already have Final Fantasy 16 coming. There's obviously 7 Remake, which those are action RPGs through in and throughout. So if they give us something that's a little bit different in terms of art style and what they're going with to kind of reinvigorate or kind of just freshen up what Final Fantasy can do, and it's PS5 exclusive, taking advantage of the hardware with the DualSense controller and the SSD, I am all down for games like that. So sign me up when it comes to it. And yeah, I talked about Square Enix's E3 and how we should be hyped in a recent video, and hopefully this good news comes with that and some other stuff as well. I want to see some revitalizations from Square Enix. I mean, you can do it with some stuff with Final Fantasy, but let's see some other stuff as well. But it's going to be interesting to find out what this actually ends up being. So what are your thoughts on this supposed PS5 exclusive on the Final Fantasy franchise? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. All right, and moving on to the next topic here, guys. We have to talk about this game that has blown me away, and that is Scarlet Nexus on the Xbox Series X. It's on the Xbox Series S. It's on the Xbox One. It's on the Xbox One S. It's on the Xbox One X. It's on the PlayStation 4. It's on the PlayStation 4 Pro. It's on the PlayStation 5. It's on PC. The only system it's not on is Nintendo Switch. Not at this point, but we know Bandai Namco, it'll be there like in like 5 or 6 years. A little bit behind schedule. We're just getting Ni no Kuni at this point. Ni no Kuni 2. But yeah, let's talk about Scarlet Nexus. I played the demo. I streamed it live. This game is absolutely phenomenal. The combat is fast, fluid, and fun. The gameplay is really unique. I think that it does a great job of the telekinesis or psychokinesis powers. I love the combo, the skill trees. Everything that they've included in this game is absolutely great. You can tell it's not the highest end game, right? You're playing on Xbox Series X and you're not seeing the greatest textures or anything like that. But I think the contrast in terms of the world and the combat is just absolutely phenomenal. I felt like the controls were so good and they layered on top of the mechanics with the psychokinesis, being able to have your teammates and how they're mapped to buttons on the face buttons on your controller, and then you can kind of call them in for support, finish off enemies in very stylistic and flashy types of ways. The skill tree and upgrading, the action RPG elements in there, it's not afraid of doing that. It's not afraid of saying, hey, this is a true in action RPG hybrid. It's like Bayonetta or it's like Devil May Cry. Games that kind of have some light RPG elements to where you can do things but don't really consider themselves that. And it's saying, no, we are an RPG though. We have the leveling and all that. But then we also have the high flying combos, the rising action, and the air combos and the other stuff that you can do. There's so much creativity and custom stuff that you can kind of put into this game. Man, I am excited. And this game, for real, it blew me away on how good it was going to be. I already knew it was going to be good, but I didn't think I was going to have as much fun as I had with this game. And there's two stories too. You have the female that you can play through, then you have the male story, and they have different powers, so they play differently. So therefore you have replay value already built into there. And there is a demo that you can play right now at this point on Xbox. Now it's coming to PlayStation on May 28th. So PlayStation and other platforms will get it then. And the game is launching this June. So this is fantastic to see. I love when new IPs come out, these action games, and they have a lot of unique mechanics kind of built into it and layer their own innovations on top of it. I get the same feeling when I played Astral Chain. When I first played that and I saw what that game offered and all the different stuff that you can do, I got the same feeling when playing Scarlet Nexus. People have compared these two games before, but really there's no need to compare. All we need to say is, yes, that is a great game, Astral Chain. It does some fantastic, unique stuff. But this game, Scarlet Nexus, doesn't play like Astral Chain. It's different, but it has that same new IP flair and swag that you want to see in these Japanese games that nobody else can do. Only really Japanese developers can do stuff like this, man. So I am extremely excited. If you're an Astral Chain fan, you need to check out the Scarlet Nexus demo. You know, if you have an Xbox platform, you can play it there, play it on PlayStation later or PC or whatever the case is. If you have another system, definitely check it out. I think that it's going to be a ton of fun. Now, there are some things, the character designs are pretty bad. For the enemy character designs are pretty bad. The story seems like it might be kind of meh for some people, and the presentation necessarily isn't the best with the cutscenes and how like the static layouts and all of that. So I understand the complaints from there, but everything else seems very solid. The gameplay is the best thing about this game. I think it's extremely well done and a lot of fun to play through, and I cannot wait to play it some more too. So what do you guys think? For those who have played the Scarlet Nexus demo, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. All right, and moving on to the final topic here, guys, we have some more Nintendo Switch news as well when it comes to RPGs. And guys, we have to talk about this because I have not discussed this game on my channel yet in a video, and that is The Legend of Mana, or just Legend of Mana Remaster, PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, PC, June 24th. But we've got some comparison screenshots that I'm going to be showing you guys. Square Enix, once again, back at it again with the RPG remasters, with the classics being brought back in certain ways. And this is the perfect type of classic game to bring on the Nintendo Switch, play it on the go, have this Legend of Mana goodness. I love it, man. June 24th, $29.99. I think it's going to be a very good game. These comparisons are great. They've cleaned up the game quite a bit, and the Mana series is having a little bit of a resurrection. It's coming back. We got Trials of Mana that did fantastic. Obviously, Legend of Mana is here. I mean, this is so good to see the Mana series get some love when it comes down to it, especially after the disastrous Secret of Mana remake, which they completely kind of botched that, you know, when that game came out a number of years ago. So I love the fact that they're actually taking this way more seriously with Trials of Mana and Legend of Mana. This is a PlayStation classic, so very good to see it come back here. And I'm thinking that this game is going to do extremely well on the Nintendo Switch, especially after seeing some of these comparison screenshots and how they cleaned this game up and brought it to more platforms as well. So what are your thoughts on all the different topics here when it comes to the huge Nintendo Switch RPG news that's going on? Action games, adventure, all sorts of stuff. We're going to have more of these videos for you guys, and I've also added a playlist on the channel. So if you've missed any of my RPG news segments, make sure you check out the main page. Of course, hit the notification and subscribe, but also check out the main page. The RPG news will be listed there as well. So what do you guys think about all of this? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Check out the links in the description. We've got Twitter. Go and give us a follow on there. Stay up to date on all latest gaming news and information. Also, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video if you can. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you for the next one. Peace.